Welcome to the Call Guys podcast, co-hosted by Kevin Hopp and Ronen Pessar. This podcast is all about sales development and the art and science of building high-performing outbound sales teams. Tune in weekly to hear live cold calls and also to hear Kevin and Ronen interview some of the top names in sales development. Let's dive right into this week's episode and see what we can learn. This episode is brought to you by Connect and Sell, your live conversation weapon. Teams that use Connect and Sell average 5 to 10 times more live conversations every day with their prospects. As a cold calling consultant, I've used every platform out there, and simply put, Connect and Sell is the Cadillac of the sales acceleration space. If you haven't tried it out, your team can try it for free by clicking the link in the show notes below.
Hello, LinkedIn universe. How are we doing today? Welcome to the first edition of the Call Guys live cold calling show. I'm your host, Kevin Hopp. This is going to be co-hosted by Ronen Pessar, who is actually on vacation right now, so he's not going to be here. But joining us today as our guest co-host and our guest caller, Gavin DeWitt. How we doing?
I'm living the dream, baby. Never been this good.
I love to hear that. Love to hear that. Really excited to introduce a new season of this live calling show. We're going to be moving the name Hop on Calls out. We're going to be moving the Call Guys in. The Call Guys podcast is going to be a mix of live shows and informational, topic-driven podcasts all about sales development. We have a new sponsor for the live show today, and let's give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Connect and Sell. Woo! If you guys have not heard of Connect and Sell, I'm not sure what you've been doing. Connect and Sell is not a tool, it's a weapon. It's a weapon mass conversation, okay? Connect and Sell's technology is the best in the business when it comes to connecting you to live prospects in real time. It's a world-class solution. I'm really excited to be partnering with them moving forward, and I'm going to be using Connect and Sell today to make a ton of dials, have a ton of conversations in a short period of time. So shout out to our sponsor, Connect and Sell. Gavin, tell me a little bit for the audience and those that are out there in the LinkedIn sphere. Tell me a little bit of your background. Who's Gavin, and why are we going to make calls today?
Yeah. Well, Gavin is just an old washed up ex-college wrestler that wants to pursue excellence in everything he does. Something that I'm really passionate about is developing people. And that's why I kind of felt called to join the WildSpark team. So going to be calling HR leaders because my mission is to develop people. Their mission is to develop people, and calling to see if our missions can align.
Love that. Love that. So how long have you been in sales for everybody out there?
I've been in sales for about 3 years. Been in tech sales for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. Was previously in med device before coming over to tech space.
Okay, awesome. So you've made a bunch of cold calls before. This is not going to be your first time making cold calls.
Correct.
Really excited to have you here. You're going to be calling on behalf of WildSpark. What's the 10-second pitch? You're calling HR leaders for what?
It's just a strategy that helps develop their people into impactful leaders.
All right, developing impactful leaders. That's exciting. That's exciting. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go live on Connect and Sell over here. If you hear me talk, that's because I have someone live on the line. I'm going to be calling founders on behalf of the Call Guys, right? The Call Guys, what we do really two things. We build SDR teams as a service, advisory consulting, and we do team training on the conversation first methodology, which is all about using the phone and cold calling to get things popping, to get top of phone.
Cold calling is not dead.
Cold calling is
not dead. Never will be.
You sure? I don't know.
Pretty sure.
Maybe it is. You know, one of the things I'm really passionate about is like cold calling's not dead. You're doing it wrong.
You know hey, man, come on. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. A big part of that thesis is what used to work does not work anymore with cold calling. And that
huge
is the problem, right? So back in the day, a lot of the, gray-haired sales leaders, back when they were making a lot of phone calls, their dial to connect rate was very high, right? You make 5 dials, you have 2 conversations, You do that. Oh, you only need to call for about an hour a day because you're going to get a lot of conversations in, and then you're good to go. You can do that with an old rotary phone if you needed to. Today, we're doing dial to connect rates that are through the roof, right? From some of the data sources out there, I've heard dial to connect rates of 1 in 30. You got to make 30 outbound calls to have one conversation? Are you kidding? Ridiculous.
That's high.
That's really high.
Which is why people need to connect and sell.
That's right. I definitely agree. People come to me and they say like, hey, how do I get good at cold calling? Like, how do I do this and that? And I'm like, look, how I got good at cold calling is doing it a lot. Like
oh, yeah, dude. Oh, my gosh. My first cold call I ever made, it was his CEO of a company that I knew. I knew the guy. Like, we hung out at a conference together. My CEO and CRO were really close to him. They're in the same cohort for like their tech VC. And wow. Dude, literally, like, I was like, hey, Kevin, it's Gavin DeWitt. And he was like, Gavin, what do you want? And I was like,
why are you calling me?
To be honest, yeah, he was like, to be honest, it's a cold call. And he was like, hung up on me. I was like, I would have hung up too. I sent him a message. I was like, hey, man, I'm going to book you sometime. Like, just give me 3 months. That was my first cold call I ever made. It was awesome.
I love it. Did you call him back and book him?
No, he came out of my segment. Or I went out of segment. I was SMB and then got moved to mid-market.
I see.
I typically don't call direct lines, but I got a feeling about old McKinsey.
I remember I came across a Snapchat memory on my phone of my days as an SDR. And one of the things we would do when new SDR started is we would go get a room, right? Because our office had like all these like rooms, right? We go get a room and we dial and we would team dial. So we're both sitting on either side of the phone, their laptops, facing the phone in the middle. And, you know, the rep who's training would like dial. And there were 2 or 3 times where, you know, the rep would get so nervous, they would like stop talking. And then I would pick up the call. I would just start talking. You know what I mean? So it's like the call starts talking to Paul. And then halfway through the call, Kevin comes in and is like, oh, yeah, hey, oh, by the way, this is Kevin. I'm with Mind Touch, and jump in. And they'd be like, okay. But we did actually set a meeting off of one of those awkward conversations. Man, team dialing. Back in the day, back in the in-person days, those were good times. Really enjoyed that. You came across, you talked a little bit about something, which is, you know, what every single person wants to know the same 2 things. Well, every single person wants to know the same 2 things when we cold call them. Every single person, every single time. Can you guess what those 2 things are?
Who are you and what do you want?
Who are you? And why are you calling me?
Well,
it sounds silly.
See, I said that I was I had a good feeling about that call, but I wasted a minute and a half waiting for the ring, so I just got to move on.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but if you really focus on starting your calls and having this be the first thing you cover, understanding that when you give them these answers of who you are, my name's Kevin, I'm with the call guys, they're going to go, who? I don't know you.
Why are you calling?
For this call. And then, why are you calling me? Dude, it's a sales call. It's a cold call, right?
Yeah.
If you can get this out of the way in the beginning in a formulaic fashion, right? Start every call the same way. That's how you're going to have really reliable conversations, right? So a big part of like the methodology that Ronen and I talk about is having a script in a way that you're getting into calls so that you can have a very reliable talk track. But part of that is you can't just like jump into the call and vomit your pitch. You have to remember that every single person wants to know the same 2 things. And if we know that, then we can game plan for that. We can have a plan for exactly what they want to know right out the gate. So have a plan, have a process. Well, so there's a concept here. Like the guy said, this is no longer a business line. I know that it was, right? So that means that this data was accurate at some point. It did go to a business. That might have even been Julian, but he was like, this is not a business line. I'm not associated with the business. I'm not Julian. So it's like, right? Like I don't envy the data companies out there that are constantly dealing with like data decay. Do you know what I mean? Like the idea that data is decaying at a very rapid rate over time.
Hey, Heather, this is Gavin DeWitt. How's the day going? Man, I am just so happy to hear that. Hey, the reason I'm calling is I know I'm a stranger, but we have more in common than you think. You got a minute for me to ask you a question and then let you decide if we should chat or not? Thank you so much. The reason I'm reaching out to you, and honestly, I could be wrong here from your title of Director of IT Learning and Development. The reason I'm reaching out to you is I think you and I are both extremely passionate about developing people. And my question for you is, what does your current system look like to make sure you're building your current and future leaders? Oh, that's incredible. And help me better understand that because I'm really new in my role. Does that mean you guys are like doing trainings? Is that quarterly, monthly, weekly even? It's awesome to hear that you guys have something in place. That hearing someone see the value in developing the people and the successful leaders is always encouraging for me to hear. I'm calling from a company called WildSpark. Have you ever heard of WildSpark before? So I speak with HR leaders all the time. Yeah. To be honest, it is a sales call. But I know I asked for a minute and you've given me like 3 already. But the person I called wasn't to like ask you to commit to an hour meeting or anything crazy like that. But would it be crazy for us to set up a 15-minute call to see if WildSpark could benefit your team? Because what you said is you are doing some homegrown stuff, but if there's any way that we could take that burden off of you, WildSpark is in the simplest way I can put it. It's a system to develop your leadership skills of your people. And it's a combination for employees to engage in monthly lessons while also carrying on group conversations to grow as impactful leaders. Can I propose something that might be a little unconventional, Heather? Yeah, it's okay. You can decline it respectfully. So typically, like, although you might not be the decision maker, it wouldn't be the first time that we've talked to somebody that isn't the decision maker. It sounds like you have like a plate full of creating content. Like if we could like lessen your load and you could just focus on the delivery and the training, like, would that be worth us just hopping on a 15-minute call and then chatting through that and seeing if it makes sense to loop in someone else? Yeah. To be honest, I didn't catch his name earlier. I didn't want to cut you off, but you cut out. Could you say their name again? My name is Gavin DeWitt. I'm sorry. I should have. Don't tell my mom that I did a bad job of introducing myself. Heather, you're amazing. Also, if this might be something you're interested in, don't know. We have a sister company called Fireseeds, and what Fireseeds does is it's an outbound recruiting agency that places qualified leaders into leadership role, and like from directors and above. Don't know if that makes sense, but just something that you could keep in your back pocket. What I'll do is I'll send an email. Thanks for being so pleasant. You're amazing. I'll send an email. That way you have my phone number and email. If it does make sense, I'll try my best to get in contact with Lee Wheatley. And then if I can, if I can work my magic and get him on a call, I'll add you to that invite too, if that's something that you think would be appropriate. Awesome. Hey, good luck with your recruiting block. You got it. See ya. No demo, direct referral though. No demo, but direct referral. That's a win. That's a win.
It sounded like a win to me, man. That was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Back and forth for a while. What was the title of that person? It's interesting that they referred you to someone else. Director of IT Learning and Development. So she referred me to her boss, which is the VP of Learning and Development. Okay. Interesting. You guys
sometimes like whenever you're calling like directors of learning and development, like they've worked their way up to director, but most of their experience was like, like a HR generalist or an HR specialist or, manager of HR. And like the next step would be a director of learning and development. It's kind of rare that you see like a learning and development specialist or like an entry level learning and development person.
Right. So you felt confident in calling them because you know that they would have a concept of the strategy and also understand how the practical execution is going on right now when it comes to leadership.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Heather said that she does all the content and the delivery, which calling from a guy that it'd be basically like you calling someone and saying like, oh, we make all our cold calls ourselves. And you're like, all right, that's a huge burden on your shoulders. Like, we have a scalable way to implement training and development. Like you're creating the content. That's a ton of your time. If you can take that time allotted from creating the content and you can focus on the execution of the building your people, holy smokes, it's a win for both of us, Yeah.
God, that would be huge. I love it, man. Well, it was a great conversation.